I recently did an interview with Gary Bartz, who played with Miles Davis for a year and a half. And I said, Gary, how did Miles communicate what he wanted with the music? He said, well, first of all, we only had one rehearsal in a year and a half, and he communicated with just a word or two and a look. Pat, how did Pat Martino communicate what he wanted with the music to you?
That's funny because at first he didn't say anything. From the time I joined, I think it was 6, 7 years. He didn't say a word, and I would, at the very beginning, I was paranoid because it's like, oh, he's not saying anything. I'm gonna get the axe any day now. This is gonna be the end of it. But he would find ways. I think, there's certain musicians I had encountered, and Pat was one of them, would find kind of back ways to tell you about certain things. Perfect example would be, Pat has an approach to playing his solos based on minor chords. Substituting this, substituting that over a certain chord to get a certain sound. And he, at the very beginning, I was kind of like, okay, he's playing. I'm kind of not sure where he's going with some of this and how am I going to figure out how to play. And then randomly he would start talking about, when I think about this minor chord, if I think about this chord, or if I think about this dominant chord, or whatever, I think about this kind of thing, it works really well. Like he was giving me an informal music lesson, and that kind of made a light bulb go off. It's like, oh, wait a minute, he's kind of telling me how I need to think about approaching certain things, playing with him. And later on, as the years went on, I guess you'd say, he entrusted both Carmen and myself to bring tunes to the band, to try things. Some things he did like, some things he didn't like. And I think by just those kind of things of accepting what we did or brought to the band was, ways he communicated with us in that sense. But specifics, never really. And it would be frustrating sometimes because we'd want to know, but it's just, and I think, Joe, you said this, Pat had the outlook is like, if you're here because of what you do, and I shouldn't have to communicate to you.
Pat was so thrilled to have someone like a Pat Bianchi and Carmen and Tori that I would say to him sometimes, why don't you say some of the things, because he would talk to me about certain things. And he said, no, they know what to do. And when I hire them, I don't want to teach them. They know. They did their homework. They're going to come. And he said, that's the way it is with Pat and Carmen. And they did their homework and they were ready. And I think the drum chair was a very difficult chair with Pat. He's very rhythmic, and the way he approached his tunes and how normally, I think there was only, I said this before, there was only maybe 2 drummers that I could think of that had command, and that would be Tain Watts. When they played together, Jeff is a leader, and they hooked up soon, but it took a while because he went for it. And the other one would be Kenwood Denard. Other than that, Pat, when the bell rang, he was off and running, and you better be with him. It was that simple.